Hey there, and welcome to a bonus Factorio mod spotlight. I'm Exterminator, and thank you for joining me. And obviously, Wednesday has already passed at this point, but I did mention there was a possibility of a bonus spotlight this week, and this is it. This is the Science Off mod. Now, a quick disclaimer that you maybe already noticed is the name is different than the title of the video. I just quickly want to give a disclaimer that the name of the actual mod, the proper name is Science Off. Uh, and I wanted to name it something different in the title of the episode because I didn't want people to be turned off by it and think that it turns science off, because that's not what it does. It's more of like a face-off, like competitive type of thing. So that's why I called it Science Battles. I just didn't want people to be turned off and maybe miss out on a cool mod, which I think this is. So just a quick disclaimer there that the proper name for this is Science Off. And this actually is kind of being developed, the idea being developed by a fellow streamer, Colonel Will. A lot of you may know him. And one of his community members, Muppet, has made this mod, made some other great mods. And what this is this is a competitive or fun challenge for playing either against yourself, like you can just set goals for yourself, or you can use this to compete against your friends or enemies, I suppose. And I think Colonel Will was testing it, playing against another streamer, kind of as a competitive thing. For those of you who have been around for a little while, you may know about biter battles or the production challenge battles that happened quite a long time ago. This is kind of in the middle. It's similar to biter battles with a very, very heavy focus on production rather than the military fighting side of things. And it's really neat. I'm a huge fan of the way that this mod is set up. So we have this GUI up here, Science Off score, playtime, and then time remaining. So you can set time limits in here. If we go to mod settings, Science Off, we have a few things here. We can do game in state, editor mode. This is what happens when the game ends to all players. Either editor mode is enabled, freeze the map entirely, or God mode is used to let players move around. Print timestamp points, interval minutes. So this will print each player's points with timestamp, startup. So time limit, this is where you set the time limit, 120 minutes, so 2 hours. You can change this. Points target, you can do a points target rather than a time limit, and target run data. And this is really cool. So this will generate a JSON data file export from a previous run. If provided, the points and science packs will show on the production graph when they were used in the target run with a graph icon over them. So this is cool to kind of set a goal for yourself, kind of like time splits for speedrunners. So these are the settings. Now, how does this work? This mod makes it so that every type of science that is consumed in a research is worth a certain point value. To clarify, this is not science packs produced, it is science packs actually used in research. So you can't just focus on just building a ton of just one type of science and try to win that way. It has to be consumed through a research. And this is used, the intention for this mod is to be, kind of a battle, a face-off, if you will, against other people. So unfortunately, there's not support currently to have multiple teams on the same map. So if you play this with a friend or set up some competition, you would need to each have your own session, your own map, but you could of course select a map beforehand or go in blind and then share the exchange string, so you're both working on the same exact map, which I think is very important for a mod like this, is to both have the same exact copy and setup for the map. And then the goal would be to, whoever wins is the person who either reaches a point, a point score threshold that you set, or in this case, it's just based on time. So you have 2 hours to do this, and whoever has the highest score by the end of those 2 hours wins. And I think this is really cool because it's not nearly as exploitable as a lot of these other things, like biter battles or specifically the production challenge stuff scenario. And the science packs are worth the following values. So red science is worth 1 point. Logistics science is worth 3 points. Military science is worth 6 points. chemical science is worth 10, production science is worth 34, utility is worth 38, and space science is worth 80 points per pack consumed. So what we can do here is if I just let's give ourselves some stuff here. So if we go in here and we give ourselves some of this, and then we set up a lab here with some very simple power. As this is consumed, we will start generating points, and I will show you this in a much more advanced forward playthrough, so you can actually see this kind of happening at a much quicker rate, but I did want to show you this here just in a very basic form. And we'll do that. There we go. So this now has power. And if we insert these in here and pick a research, say, well, we actually need to now undo all research. There we go. Okay, so now if we just pick automation, for example, this will consume packs, and as it consumes them, our points should increase. Now, of course, this being red science, they will not increase very much, but theoretically they should increase. And as you can see there, it took a second, but we now have a point, and it shows us kind of how we've achieved that point through just consuming a red science. And I think this is really, really neat. It seems much more balanced, like I said, than the other competitive scenarios. One thing that I think is really nice about it is you can set it up however you want. Like you could set, you could do a death world if you want. I mean, it's obviously not combat. It's not meant for combat. You could turn biters off entirely, which is what I saw Colonel Will doing. You could set whatever map settings you want, and as long as you give your opponents, everyone you're playing against, the map exchange string, so everyone has the same map, you can basically set this up however you want. And heck, you could even do this, you know, in sessions. Even if you wanted to do a time limit of, you know, 20 hours, you could do this over a week, as long as, you know, everyone you're playing with either records their footage, so there's no, you know, there's evidence that there's no cheating, or if you just, you know, have a, you know, gentleman's agreement with everyone you're playing with, if you know them well enough to, you know, make sure that there's no cheating. I think that would be really, really neat. So there is this. Now, a few things to cover here. In production, it will show here. So this is, we ran out of, well, it shows the science off points here. So this is kind of how much we're generating a minute. So in your production graph, you can actually see this, which is very cool. An average of 6 a minute here so far. Of course, we did finish that research, but it's really, really neat how this works. So it has a GUI, as I went over. It can be seen in the production graph, which I went over, and you can load previous play data and compete against it with the target science packs and points shown in the production graph with a graph logo over them. I kind of touched on that. So basically this, like I said, it's basically the built-in equivalent of time splits for speedrunners. And at the end of the run, you will get the option to export the data for use in future runs. This exported data can be loaded prior to a run via the target run data setting, which is what I showed you at the beginning. So it's really cool to, you know, kind of maybe, because then you can just set a target, you know, export the data and then run against that yourself if you're practicing or something, and try to beat that point amount, you know, each time. And then there's an option to have a timestamp points written to the chat console for recording milestones for streamer chat, which we also went over in the beginning. I believe it's set to every 10 minutes by default. And then a toggleable GUI to show science pack points value. So here we go. If you just forget and just want this up, that will bring that up here. And then this one hides that completely if you want that gone. A few notes is changing any startup mod settings once the map has been created is not supported. You must start a new map if any startup settings need changing, meaning these settings right here. And then currently only supports vanilla science pack types, but is expandable in theory. And currently only supports one team player per map, which I touched on. However, the code is written with expansion for multiple forces in mind. I don't think it's really necessary to have multiple teams on the same map, just due to the way this is set up. I think this just works pretty well. And if we really quickly then go into a game like my tutorial series, for example, that is already producing much more science, and well, we've already I guess finished here because of the time limit. Let's go ahead and do that. So my character's running. Okay, that actually did not work as well as I'd hoped. But well, you can kind of see here actually. This although it's not actively working necessarily, or perhaps it is. Says the game's ended, but you can see here playtime, and this is how many points we've achieved, and this is how we've gotten there. I think this is, so this is a good example kind of how there goes our character, of how how you can get points and how the points may add up. This of course was by the this isn't counting purple science and stuff, so this was a fair bit ago. But just to kind of give you a general idea what this may look like. And like I said, you can set the time to whatever you want. You could set it to 2 hours. You could do 30-minute quick runs. You could do 20, 40, 80 hours and do it over multiple weeks with your friends and such. And I think it's just it's a really cool mod. It's not necessarily the type of mod I normally spotlight, but I think it's worth showing because I do think that some type of competitive aspect in Factorio, just for fun, would be really cool. And so far, I have to say, this is probably one of, if not the most balanced forms of that. Just due to the fact that, unlike something like Production Challenge, where you could just like mass produce just like one type of item that was just superior to all others, it doesn't really work that way here, because since it's science packs consumed, you can't just build like a gigafactory making red science and win that way. You have to actually tech up, and then it really just comes down to building a base properly and strategies related to that. So I believe that's gonna do it, guys. Like I said, not the type of thing I normally spotlight, but if you have friends you like to play with, you're looking to maybe start some type of competitive face-off thing, definitely worth checking this out. My very last comment, and this is just a personal opinion, and I certainly could be off base here, but with the point values, I do think that, bringing up these point values here, I do think that yellow science should be worth more points than it is. The purple science is 34. I think that yellow science is quite a lot more expensive than purple science. I mean, purple science does take the rails and stuff, which are expensive in the furnaces, but the first like number range that comes to my mind is probably more like 45 points or so, or yeah, probably like 45, 46 points for yellow science. I feel like just 4 more points than purple is not really appropriate, in my opinion. That's just my feeling. Everything else seems pretty well balanced here, honestly. Space science, of course, is extremely expensive. So I don't know. Maybe that's just my thought. It would be cool if there's a setting where you could adjust point values, or maybe there is, and I just read over it. But it would be cool if there is. Oh no, there is a no. I don't think there's a setting to change the actual point value. So, it says the rates are based on raw ingredient costs and craft time, the point values. I still feel like yellow science should be higher than this, even though it's technically based on the point, the craft time and raw ingredient cost. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, there's a mod, guys. Sorry for a little rant there at the end. I just kind of wanted to give my thought for that. The meat of the mod was already covered. So if you find this interesting, or maybe you just want to play, the cool thing here is you can just do this yourself too. If you just want to set like point goals or something and then just compete against yourself, since you can export the data and then kind of play against it. I think that would be really, really neat, in all honesty, to just do that if you want. So there you go. Link in the description to the mod where you can check it out on the mod portal for this bonus spotlight here. And any questions and thoughts, leave below. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.